John Wick is every dog lover's dark fantasy of what they'd do if someone messed with their dog. But you should also know him as a loving tribute to the action movie, and it's got the nods, references, and homages to prove it.
You ready, John? Yeah.
To be fair, John Wick has been subtly tipping its hat to the cult classic movie The Warriors the entire time. The opening of Parabellum starts off with Wick having to make a run through New York as all of the assassins converge on him in a reflection of the long walk home the Warriors have to make when they're accused of killing Cyrus. If that was too subtle for you, there was the last act of Chapter 4. At this point, it's less an Easter egg and more of a tribute, complete with the smooth radio DJ updating the assassins on Wick's progress like the DJ in the original movie. While there have been on and off talks of a remake of the classic, we all know that whatever comes out will be awkward. So the John Wick franchise gave us the next best thing. Except no baseball furies. Could have used some baseball furies. John Wick's scribe and creator Derek Kolstad is clearly a student of the martial arts action film, and it's not just the tributes and nods. He seems to understand the actual experience from the fan end of things, which oddly has created a bit of a will he or won't he. Kolstad's other creation is Hutch Mansell, the accountant from the very John Wick-like Nobody. Where part of the fun of John Wick is how afraid everyone is of him, Nobody flips it around, creating a guy people mistakenly underestimate. The end result is the same: brutal fighting action and a hero who shakes off injury and pain. Naturally, the question is, team up? Kolstad's answer has been a confusing no, but. A side-by-side team-up is out, now for obvious reasons, but mostly because he'd rather Mansell develop in his own series, feeling jamming the two together would seem desperate. But Nobody director Ilya Naishuller is a little more coy on the issue. Then there's Chapter 4's newest addition, The Tracker, otherwise known as Mr. Nobody. Oh, Kolstad, you tease. But look, the guy who wrote Anaconda also wrote Komodo, and no one asks for that crossover. Actually, that might be kinda cool. People under the high table often repeat that rules are what separate them from animals, usually right before Wick breaks on and tears down a whole leg of the table. The general rule, however, is sophistication. After all, these assassins are bringing down million-dollar contracts. They're all millionaire assassins. That's weird to think about. One way to show off wealth is fancy art. And one way to hint at themes is to use specific art, like Eugene Delacroix's Liberty Leading the People that Winston and the Marquis du Gramont stopped to admire, depicting a revolutionary standing up with the people, the very thing Gramont is trying to prevent Wick from becoming. They exit on Jean-Louis André Theodore Géricault's Rafter the Medusa. There's a ton of symbolism to mine from that painting. But for starters, it depicts the crew of the Medusa piling on a makeshift raft after an overly ambitious captain risked too much for pride and sank the ship. A warning the Marquis didn't pick up on. The first John Wick is a masterclass on establishing character by how everyone else reacts to them. It's almost a full half hour into the hour and 41-minute movie before a single butt is kicked by John Wick. But by that time it happens, we are primed to see what everyone is so afraid of. Aside from his nickname, the one thing people tend to zero in on was the time he killed 3 men with a pencil. Who does that? Well, thanks to Chapter 4, we know. While the pencil has been revisited before, in 4, Wick's old friend and now rival Caine picks up a pencil as a weapon when he readies to do his own killer run. While Kolstad's creation is a love note to martial arts action movies, the John Wick series is also the answer to the question, what if we just had the stunt performers make the movie? Prior to directing the John Wick series, director Chad Stahelski was earning his pay as a stunt performer and coordinator for dozens of films, including The Matrix, where he was also Neo's double. In the spirit of that, Wick is stacked with stunt performers in key roles. To get his ticket back for the Ruska Roma, John Wick has to kill a man named Killa. If you were wondering how a big guy got so spry, it's because it was stunt performer and actor Scott Adkins in a bodysuit. There are a lot of nods to notable action movies and stars, but one of the most consistent tributes throughout the series is the one to the guy who arguably started the whole "I do my own stunts and they're crazy" thing, silent film star Buster Keaton. Most blatant are the projections, like the opening of John Wick Chapter 2, where a motorcycle stunt from Sherlock Jr. is projected on a wall right before it's replicated on the street by a man who really should just give John his car back. Chapter 3's fall into the alleyway after Winston's betrayal echoes a similar fall in 3 Ages. And in Chapter 4 at the Osaka train station, another projection of a Buster Keaton movie hides in the background. Turns out it's all down to Jackie Chan. In an interview with Slate, Stahelski talks about his early days as a martial artist and performer. Talking to Jackie Chan, Stahelski learned that one of Chan's biggest influences is Buster Keaton. As a child, Stahelski had watched his dad's 8mm collection of silent films, and, as he tells Slate, it finally clicked. If you're gonna live a life of danger, you gotta have more than a few secret stashes. In the hour leading up to becoming excommunicado, Wick makes a break for the New York Public Library, where buskers are singing Take You Back by Frank Stallone. Now that's a thing you know too. While you process that, he finds the book he's looking for where he stashed his symbolic ticket as the Ruska Roma family. The book in question is the Ruskie Narodnie Skadzi, or Russian fairy tales as it was released in the English edition. Turns out, Wick leans into his nickname a bit as that book contains one of the earliest written mentions of the Baba Yaga. The first was in a book on Russian grammar in 1755. Grammar lessons were darker then, I guess. At some point, it was decided that not an insignificant portion of ballerinas were also secretly super assassins. It makes sense. Ballet is intensely physically demanding, and I think the tight buns they have to put in their hair makes them angry. John Wick joined that crowd when the director was pushing a ballerina past exhaustion and will run with it when the ballerina gets her own spin-off movie on Peacock. The marquee on the theater reads, "The Tale of Two Wolves," which refers to the Native American parable that says in us are two wolves, one evil and one good, and they're fighting it out. The winner, of course, is the one you feed. Fitting for Wick, who is at war with his violent super assassin self and his desire to live the quiet life he had with Helen. In Chapter 3, the complex society of assassins expanded when Wick met with the master of coin, Barrada, who minced the gold coins the assassins used as currency. He must have put past experience on his resume to get the job, because the actor who plays Barrada, Jerome Flynn, played Bronn in Game of Thrones, who at the end was elevated to master of coin in the Small Council. Every John Wick movie is piled with references to famous action movies across genres. For Chapter 3, the motorcycle chase uses the same angles and approach as the movie The Villainess. John Wick hastily assembles a revolver in a scene that has been replicated many times from the good, the bad, and the ugly. In the raid of the Continental after being deconsecrated, Zero brings in a pair that know a thing or two about raids, Yahya Ruhain and Sheshep Arif Rahman from the cult classic The Raid. When you have an expert on hand already, you might as well utilize them. That was maybe the thinking in John Wick 2 when he goes to visit the tailor in Italy. The tailor is played by Luca Mosca, which is fitting because he's also the guy who would actually make the suit in his role as the costume designer for the series. Composer Tyler Bates makes a cameo in the obligatory rave scene in Chapter 2 as, what else? A performer. We can say John Wick loves American muscle cars, but he also tears through them like it was a season of Dukes of Hazzard, leaving them a wrinkled mess. One of his go-to moves is to use the driver's side, and sometimes passenger side door, as a weapon that keeps resulting in the doors of his muscle cars coming off. Maybe he'd be happier in a Jeep? Stripping the car of its bits and baubles also echoes the Ryan O'Neal car chase classic, The Driver, where he strips a Mercedes piece by piece in a parking garage to demonstrate his skills before turning down the job. Kolstad has likened the John Wick series from the second installment on to a video game, so it seems only fitting that the John Wick franchise would do a little cross-promoting. For the release of John Wick Chapter 2, that came in the form of a cross-promotion with the shoot-'em-up Payday 2. In the game, John Wick appears as a playable character. In the movie, posters with the gang clown masks can be seen in the background while the assassins start getting their text messages. There could also be a wink to the Payday community in the appearance of 11111, the contract number, but I'll let someone from that community explain it in the comments because it's a little involved. Everyone needs to let off a little steam now and then, and John Wick had a lot built up, even before people started stealing his car and killing his puppy. In the prelude to destruction in the first movie, we see a day in the life of non-murderous John Wick, which includes a trip to the airport where an understanding guard lets him onto an unused portion of the airfield. There, John can unleash the full potential of his Mustang, which is mostly accelerating really fast and sliding around. Mustangs are simple creatures. The book the guard is reading to pass the time, Shibumi, is a story that foreshadows everything about to happen. See if this sounds familiar. A retired super assassin with Russian parentage, but no family, or in fact country, trying to live the Shibumi life of simplicity and subtle, unobtrusive beauty is called back into the life by someone who once saved his life. It's not all shoot-'em-ups and beat-'em-ups that influence the look and feel of the John Wick series. One of the most prominent features of the series is the Continental hotels. In fact, thanks to Winston's scheming, much of the story revolves around the Continental and its all-important rules. Because of those rules, the Continental acts as a safe haven for ne'er-do-wells to relax and recuperate. The inspiration for the Continental came from a different kind of classic, Rick's Cafe in the movie Casablanca. You know, the place you'd be shocked to find out was hosting gambling. Shocked! Like the Continental, Rick's acted as a gathering spot, a shady spot for the shady in World War II Casablanca. I can't be the only one disappointed the Mustang didn't return decked out with Bond-style gadgets or just hiding a stash of guns in various parts. With 2 spin-offs coming and more planned, maybe we'll get one with John Leguizamo and the Mustang.